golly gosh. I wonder.
The next speaker, the very own co-founder of Awakening Academy, Marie. She is dedicated to empowering changemakers and emerging leaders to embrace heart-centered leadership. A dynamic feminine embodiment mentor, international author, and advanced breathwork facilitator with a master's in education, as well as experience speaking at multiple global summits and mentoring leaders worldwide. Marie combines wisdom and practical tools to inspire youth to step into their power and purpose. Her work aligns with Awakening's vision of fostering connection and authenticity and empowerment through the 5 pillars of Awakening: awareness, acknowledgement, acceptance, alignment, and accountability. Marie's passions lie in igniting the potential of young visionaries, guiding them to cultivate resilience, clarity, and a sense of purpose. Through the Awakening Academy, she empowers the next generation of leaders to navigate challenges with confidence and step boldly into their role as game changers and wisdom keepers of a brighter future. I love you, Marie. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hello, beautiful people. Wow, so exciting to be here for another keynote presentation. And it has been such an inspiring morning, even with dealing with challenges, technical things, communication bits and pieces. But the beautiful part is that we've got this resilience deep within us that we can tap into. And it's really powerful to come into that place. And I find working with women, working with girls in particular, and this divine feminine energy that even with all the trials and tribulations that we can face, we really can band together and support each other and celebrate all of ourselves in the growth that we continue to pursue and continue to evolve in. And this is part of the beautiful topic that I'm going to be speaking into. And so this session is called Empower Her, Empower the World: How Raising Girls Transforms the Community. And here at Awakening Academy, we're always talking about creative connections. We're talking about community. We're always talking about empowering other people, unleashing the power of our voices, authentic expression. And I'm so excited that we have some amazing young people that are sharing their insights on this topic, on girls' rights, on women's rights. And without any further ado, we get the beautiful Felicia, who's been rocking it back.
My name is Kanayo Esther Chimdi. I am in just 3. I am 12 years old, and I'm here to talk about gender discrimination. What is gender discrimination? Gender discrimination can be defined as depriving a female gender of her rights as a citizen, or as making her feel less important as a less important citizen. Now, in my community and in my culture, men still have an upper hand against the women, making them feel less important, like making them feel like they are not important people in the society. Second of all, I see girls forced into early marriage or forced marriage against their will. Most girls are ambitious. They want to go to school at all costs. You will see them hawking, you will see them doing a lot of things just to enable them go to school. But then their parents will force them to an early marriage, which is against their will. And sometimes it leads to depression and emotional trauma, which cannot be healed over a short space of time. Parents think that marriage is the best option for their daughters, but trust me, it is not the best option. When you train a girl child, you train the whole nation. They believe that after a girl is done acquiring education, she will just end up in her husband's house, and thereby they will train the boys, because they believe that when the boys grow up, they are going to have a family, train up their children, and the education will come in important. I believe that when girls are empowered, they can change the world, they can change their lives, they can change their families, they can change everything around them, they can even change the world. There's an adage that says, when you train up a girl child, you train the whole world. So I think that when girls are empowered, they can change lives of their families, their siblings, their society, their country at large. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Zahar, your Global Youth Ambassador. Today I will be talking about ending period poverty. Period poverty is the inability to afford and access menstrual products, sanitation, and hygiene facilities. Period poverty is a global issue. Millions of women and girls around the world cannot afford menstrual products. This results in girls missing school. In Africa, a girl can miss a week of school every month when on her period for a lack of menstrual products and other cultural issues. This negatively impacts a girl child's education, human rights, and freedoms. Ending period poverty is a global initiative. Let's end period poverty by educating girls and communities, speaking up on stigma and discrimination associated with periods, supporting organizations that fight to end period poverty, supporting and funding local women and girls-led movements, and donating menstrual products. Donating reusable pads and menstrual cups, especially in Africa, goes a long way in fighting period poverty. Every voice counts. Every menstrual pad counts. May 28th is the World End Period Poverty Day. Let's make every day an End Period Poverty Day. Together, we can end period poverty. Thank you for your time.
Hi everybody, my name is Takia and today I'm going to be talking about ending underwear poverty in Africa. Millions of women and girls in Africa experience underwear poverty. This means that they cannot afford new underwear and bras. This causes low self-esteem in girls. Girls having access to underwear can help stop missing school, bullying, and rape. Ending underwear poverty promotes girl child education and poverty in general. Help end underwear poverty by donating bras and underwear to organizations like Small for All. And also partner with local organizations that take underwear to school. Together, we can help end underwear poverty in Africa.
Ah, wow. What powerful words from Esther in Nigeria, beautiful Zahara and her little sister Takaya, who are in the US, but they do a lot of work going back to South Africa with their mother. And to hear these young girls talk about the injustices that they feel, the rights of girls and women, and honoring the body, honoring education is so, so powerful. I'm just going to pop my phone down over here. And I totally had a different thread of where I was going to go with my keynote for this summit. And when Felicia and I got on an interview with Esther in Nigeria, and just hearing her passion talking about education, about girls' rights, about what she sees in her society with early marriage, and sharing her story about what she wants for herself, but her parents are telling her something different, really just struck a chord in my heart. And I can relate in a way that the things that at her age I wanted to do for myself, people told me, no, you can't do that because you're a girl. And that made me even more forceful and fierce and striving to just prove otherwise. And so that inspired me to change my keynote today to talk about when we empower her, empower those children, empower our girls, we change the whole world. And this piece around sharing our voice, particularly as women, is still taboo. It's still suppressed. And there are more and more women rising into their greatness and sharing their expression and sharing their voice and their art and their love and their hearts and their mistakes even like Flea and I today, just showing up for ourselves in all that we are, in the rain here, it's raining here in Australia, in all of the parts that can make someone go, oh, well, maybe I just shouldn't try, or I just want to give up. But there's something in this resilience that I was talking about earlier that is so powerful and profound that we as humans have, that we as women have as well. And I also loved how beautiful Zahara and Takaya talked about understanding our cycles and ending period poverty, and thinking about our bodies, thinking about also what other children in other parts of the world have as normal, which we take for granted. And so I was getting a little bit emotional listening to their insights, because there was a time where I taught in girls' education for a number of years. And even in my background as a teacher, I've been teaching for 17 years now. Most of the work I primarily did was with girls in dance, in drama, in the expressive arts, and those rare few boys and young men that were nurtured in my classrooms are doing so well now. And I love hearing the stories as they're adults where they come back and they say, wow, I had such an amazing time. Like some of the things that we did in your classroom, the fun that we had, the creative, cognitive things that were complex to create were really, really profound for them. But coming back to the expressive arts is primarily considered a very feminine way of learning. It's very nurturing, it's expressive, and people underestimate the value of the arts, the value of understanding how to come back to our body, to our voices. And so what I've noticed in teaching girls over this time through dance groups, through drama, through arts, through just community work, and even in this space here, that there is this fire in their bellies. And there's this spark of something special. And Esther was speaking about when you train a girl, you train the world. And, you know, when we think about growing up into womanhood, both son and daughter, man and woman, we are born from woman, bringing soul into existence through the womb space, coming into this beautiful physical life for us to experience and grow and evolve. And to remember how to honor the feminine voice, the gift and the purity and the essence and the spark of our girls in particular is so, so beautiful. And it was interesting when we were talking to Esther, she was talking about, I think, coding and engineering, and she was really interested in this world. And to hear her also talk about how hard those conversations with the parents were about pursuing education still breaks my heart, because this is foundational in changing communities, when equal rights in relationship building, in following your dreams and your passions, in remembering that each single person, whether it's a boy or a girl, male, female, that there's a unique gift that each person gets to bring. And still in the world, when 50% of our population are women or more, that there is still suppression happening. And to hear that children at 14, 15 years old are still being forced into marriage is really hard to hear. And I think about some of the teens that I teach in Australia, and to imagine that that age group is getting married and being forced into, I suppose, relations and to bear children and and to grow up so quickly, a part of that innocence, the purity gets lost. And can we reclaim that? Can we reclaim the pure essence that the divine, innocent feminine gets to bring into our lives? Can we reclaim the power of honoring the mother, the grandmother, in relationship with our divine men, our grandfathers, our boys, and come into a space where we can co-create together and communicate in a more harmonious way? And I can hear through the girls and their yearnings and their wants and the noticings of what they've seen, that unfortunately there are still basic rights around our bodies, particularly when they're changing, that aren't met. And it's not just in our third world countries. There are people experiencing homelessness and poverty in first world nations who, again, are struggling to get pads for their periods. And a lot of the work that I love speaking into is talking about our bodies as women, talking about our feminine flow, our menstrual cycle, and normalizing it. Perhaps reframing to revere this process. When I went through my own journey of hitting rock bottom and experiencing motherhood in a way that threw all my expectations out the door. You know, my daughter was 4 at the time, but then I experienced 3 miscarriages back to back in a 9-month period. And I was teaching in an all-girls school at that time. And it was interesting in this high school where these girls had started seeing my body shift and change, celebrating me, and also knowing the hardships in between, and to witness me as a woman go through all of that emotionally, looking at the physical illness that came from that, and still me being resilient and turning up for myself and those kids in the classroom. But to also talk about openly the mental health and well-being and the psychological effects that can happen for women. And to that extreme of, you know, understanding my cycle and the pure fact that we have periods in order to shed and create life and have a space to hold babies to bring into the world. And in my motherhood journey, understanding that perhaps it wasn't the time, or noticing these really raw shifts, noticing the pain that, you know, women may experience in their cramps, but then also in this experience of loss, was something for me and me alone to understand about my body. And I wish I had teachers and I had women that I could have gone to earlier that taught me about this. And it was through that experience that it inspired me to start changing my world around me. I remember one time I had a little bit of time off school and I came back and I had 16, 17-year-old girls in one of my senior classes prepare me a beautiful gift basket. And they knew what I'd gone through. And I remember walking through that door and receiving this beautiful, kind gift. And when they gave it to me, I dropped to my knees and I just sobbed. Out of all of these emotions, there was an overwhelming amount of just love, sadness, respect, shame. And you know what happened? They all came and they all hugged me and embraced me. And it was these teenagers that taught me about sisterhood, that taught me about the power of being vulnerable. It was them that inspired me through their kindness, through their compassion, and also just through their unique, weird quirkiness and laughter and joy to remind me that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And it was that moment that was really anchored in my being, in my presence, to remind me how powerful our young people are. And we underestimate them so much. I've been very blessed to see and to be in spaces that I've cultivated, to see potential that I never thought was possible. And the visions that these girls had for their lives, for their relationships, for the dreams that they have for themselves are phenomenal. And one of those girls is going to be our keynote speaker on day 3. And this part of building relationships and in honoring education and safe spaces for people, for our children to come together and to learn and grow from each other is powerful. And so in my whole journey, reflecting on my growth as a woman from girlhood to teenagehood to motherhood, it allowed me to really question what's missing for our girls, what's missing for women who are now stepping into motherhood. And for me, it was the piece around understanding more about our feminine flow and our menstrual cycles and normalizing this. And I'm very lucky that my husband is very open. We talk about things. It normalizes the whole experience, being very caring about being through that time, the information I've learned about the body and how to keep an eye on those signs of when my emotions are heightened so that he can navigate that in his nervous system and we can come together. And for our daughter to see that this is not something to be shunned about or hidden. And I remember when she was like a little toddler, she would come into the toilet and question, and she would go, "Oh, is that blood, mummy? Does that hurt?" And it's that innocence and curiosity, whether it's your little boys or your little girls, opening the communication to share that, you know what, at the moment, no, this doesn't hurt, but sometimes my body may go through cramps or mummy may need some more rest during this time. And as we grow as a family, nurturing the emotional state, because we as women are cyclical beings. We are tuned to nature, and we go through 4 seasons in 1 month, like the 4 seasons of Mother Nature in a year. So imagine the gaps that I was talking about in understanding our bodies. Imagine if we could reframe this understanding of our cycle, our flow, our energy as women back into schools, back into safe spaces so that we can celebrate. And I know in some cultures, the cycle is celebrated. And for those that are new to this or you're curious about this, when you're a teenager and you're going into your menarche, some people say menarche, but when you break down the phonetics, it's menarche, which means rite of passage, the first bleed, the first menses. And so what actually happens if you look at the research in epigenetics, and there's more and more insights being shared around the power of our cells, the beautiful genetics and the gifts that are stored within our DNA, and knowing that our blood is a life force energy, and that in the womb space for girls and for women, when it is time for our menstrual cycle and our bleed, that our body is doing so much work. And imagine if we could reframe the relationship with our body, our universe, universe, inside. So if we learn to treat our universe, our body, and the wisdom it carries with more reverence, and know the power that we have to shift not only our mindset, but to heal, to come within, to reframe any trauma that may come through, because there is research that shows genetically, particularly within the matriarchal line, the feminine line, that at least the first 3 generations are carried through, but also knowing that 7 generations on each side of your lineage is in the DNA is profound. So if you think about it, your grandmother, your mother, and you as a woman, as a little ovary, are in your mother's body as a little fetus, as a little infant growing in your grandmother. And like that's 3 generations right there in the physical being formed, because the ovaries are one of the first genetic pieces that is created when a girl is being created in the womb. Like, how fascinating is that? And so, in knowing the epigenetics and that the body stores memory and DNA, and as we understand more about intergenerational trauma, imagine if we could question this a little bit more deeply, be curious about our bodies, and what if all of that memory and all of that wisdom is stored in our blood, in our cells, in the epigenetics. And I invite you to research. I invite you to spark your curiosity and go deeper. Because when we reframe this understanding of the power of our blood, that it is not dirty, and it's not just something that, oh, a woman is going through that, or, oh, she's on her period, oh, she's doing this, oh, yuck, 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 yuck. Like, my goodness, I see that all the time still. And I also see a shift in reframing this natural process that woman goes through. And so in that reframing, could we go, wow, how beautiful. Isn't it powerful that we are strong enough to do that? Isn't it powerful that our girls can, oh, my daughter is here, that our girls can also celebrate their bodies and know and listen more deeply? Mm-hmm. And when our children are curious and come to us, like my daughter has just done, just giving them the moment to be acknowledged and witnessed, instead of shaming them, to go, hey, go behind those closed doors. Could we treat our girls with more reverence? Could we treat our women with so much more respect and insight into actually how resilient and how powerful they are, because of all the things, not only of what our body does or can do, but the intuition that comes in, the energy for us to do things for other people, for our children, for our partners, for our community, for our jobs. there is this beautiful energy that is not only just the feminine but the masculine that is balanced, or we're learning to balance within each body. And our men too have feminine and masculine energy. And I'm talking about energy, like yin and yang, feminine and masculine, light, dark, or shadow, however you want to term it. It's cultivating that. And in advocacy for the feminine, in advocacy for women, in advocacy for our girls, could we shift how we see the energy within ourselves and within our families and within our communities? And I'm not only just speaking to the mums and the daughters that may be listening to this, but also our divine men, our sons, our uncles, our grandparents. Could we come back to remember actually how wonderful it is to support our women in their dreams and their goals? Because when we are feeling fulfilled, we give so much to the people we love, and it just becomes automatic because we are abundance. And when we're nourished in our hearts, in our bodies, in our energy, in our dreams, in our desires, we want to give an overflow then. And so how can we invite this perception and this way of being into more and more communities? And it's through conversations like this. It's through hearing and noticing, like what the girl shared earlier, what's going around the world. Women should not have to stay at home all day if they don't have a period because they're worried about spillage or leakage. And yet, when women do want to rest, we shouldn't be shunned and made to feel bad because our body is telling us to stop and slow down during that time. When I was talking to Esther about girls in her schools, in her area around her, some of them don't go to school when it's that time of the month because they don't have those necessary items. And beautiful Mwanza, when the mother of the other two girls was talking about what she does in Zambia, going back to her homeland and bringing resources there, I was so inspired. And it just blows my mind that it's not normal. And we're still, as women, going through that. And providing things in a more eco-friendly way where things can be washed but are absorbable and healthy and hygienic, just so we feel good during that time, shouldn't have to be a fight. Shouldn't have to be justified. There shouldn't be shame or guilt around our natural processes. And when I think about our cycle and understanding the energy behind it, I figure, well, if this was taught into schools, or if this was taught into platforms like this where men and women could understand and appreciate what the feminine female body is going through, my goodness, how much more calmer and more understanding we would be as humans in relationship with one another. If a teenager who is not only going through these bodily changes, but hormonal changes as well. There is so much happening in the teenage female body during that adolescence time. It's so profound, let alone trying to figure out your identity and who you want to be or how you want to be in the world. It's phenomenal. I wouldn't want to be a teenager again. And I've said that to teenagers I've taught, but I am just always in admiration of actually how amazing their insights are. And so that sense of awe, how do we bring that more into communities that may be struggling with the basic needs because they're in survival mode? How do we continue to inspire others when perhaps they are living in poverty or having financial hardships, or not even being able to go to school because you're so tired because you had to work the night before and you're a teenager feeding your family? And these are real issues. I've also been in schools where I see kids tired, where I see teenagers falling asleep in class. I see them not caring and being apathetic because in their home life and their environment and their communities, they're seen as invisible or like they're nothing, they're not worthy. And these core wounds are not only just for our girls, but also for our boys as humans, the inner child. How can we use platforms like this to inspire others to maybe change a seed of thought? And this links beautifully back to my little mini opening keynote about inspiration. Is this enough? And I'd like to say yes, because I know that whoever is touched by this message, whether it be now or in the future or 10 years from now, there's going to hit their hearts and find their way to them. And I continue to trust in that way. And I continue to have faith that when I lean into my passion and my vision and my dreams, I share that with like-minded people like beautiful Felicia, like with my husband, with my daughter, with my parents, with my community, that in this collaboration, in this sharing, but also this deep listening, that the ripple effects just get to trickle out and touch the lives of those that it's meant to. And part of that intuition that really came online for me was after that experience I shared with you of going through trauma and pain and losing myself in that process so that I could relearn and remember who I was at the core, to strip away all of the stories, all of the expectations, and come back to the body, come back to God, source, energy, universe, whatever it is you would like to call it, and to listen deeply back into my heart, listen deeply back into my womb space and my flow. And it was through understanding and nourishing my body and understanding my menstrual flow, the power of my womb space, that allowed the intuition and that memory and that remembrance and the power and the fire to really come online. And some of those secrets shouldn't be kept secrets. What if we as women could use our energy and use the understanding of our cycles in a way that is empowering for our bodies and our energy, so that we can then be of service better? And so when I think about understanding the flow of energy, I like to break it down into characters, because that's the drama person in me. And I've had a few different feminine mentors along the way use these archetypal characters. Now, an archetype is like a hero, villain, victim, god, goddess, like they're big characters that we would see in our stories. And I love stories and I find it way more funner. And so when I think about how this was broken down to me, I think several women broke it down to me from different countries. And I was like, if people are talking about it this way, then my goodness, maybe this is a missing piece to share with our teens, to share with our mums and our women. So if you're listening in, you got to listen closer, because maybe this may spark a new insight for you. But when we think about when we get our period, and so we're in our menstrual cycle, I could break down all the very scientific things and talk about the phases that way, but I don't think that's fun. I'm going to break it down into the characters. So when it is that time and our bleed and our flow starts, the beautiful crone, and a crone is like an old wise woman, the crone wisdom comes out. And she's like the medicine woman, the one that goes a bit slower, that brings in all the wisdom to really rest and sit with. And so I found that when I reframed, when I got my cycle into the crone phase, so CRONE, crone, and it was like my wise woman is telling me to stop and slow down and rest. And there's so many times in my past, I know mums that are super busy. When it's that time, most of us are go, go, go. Just got to, keep going with life. And it's a very masculine energy. And then we pay the price for it later because then we're extra tired and drained. So could we listen to our crone, the grandmothers, saying, stop, take your own medicine and just slow down and rest? Hands up. Who's heard their mothers and their grandmothers say, just you need to rest your body. Yes, we do. Because when we rest, we can then re-nourish and recalibrate and just stop and be with the body in the process to allow that shed to happen. Because what is actually happening in the womb, there's so much work in the body to create the blood, to create life, because that's the intention, the process. And yet we don't need to birth babies for ideas to be birthed, for that process to shed any old things, any old ways of being, any old ideas, because I like to think that in that shed, in that crone wisdom, in the rest, we also get to release and let go of anything that doesn't serve us. How beautiful is that? That our body wisdom is saying all of that tension and all of those worries and all those things, there's a way out. And it captures it in our blood, in our womb space, and allows the body to shed, to release, to let go and flow. So that the next part of the phase in our cycle can be more effective. And this crone phase, I was talking about the seasons before, is like winter. Winter, rest, let's cuddle up, let's nourish. But then after winter comes spring. And so I always think young princess, maiden energy, and you're feeling good. That part of the phase is now over. You're feeling refreshed, and there's like a renewed, invigorated energy. So I think of the maiden, feeling free, feeling energetic. And a maiden is like a princess. I always think damsel in distress, but it's like, oh, that maiden, there's a sense of purity and there's a sense of energy that comes. And when we think about spring, new life, new energies, new ideas. Great way to bring in and to get organized and to do the things. And then we go into our mother phase, which is the part in our cycle where we start to ovulate. And this mother phase is very action-based, because mother energy, which is, there is feminine there, but it's very masculine, because we like to do things. We're looking after this and we're actioning this, and we're go, go, go. And in the mother phase, the ovulation phase, it's like summer. And that's like everything is like prime, fruitful, ready to go. And we can action things when we're ovulating, action things in this mother phase, and bring in our feminine and masculine energy to its optimum. And this is the best time to manifest and create and to action things and take action. So this mother archetype is, again, a very masculine, a very yang energy for us to go and do things. But because of our feminine energy, it's balanced in a way that it harnesses and I'd like to say enhances and amplifies the masculine energy that we have as women to be executed with efficiency, with command, with control, with vitality. It's a life force energy right there, because our bodies and our womb space are creating life, creating ideas, creating things to be birthed. Whether it's a human or whether it's an idea or a business or something else, we're birthing, preparing to give birth to new ideas, to children when you're ready for it or if you have them, but to allow that creative energy, which Flea is going to talk about shortly, to percolate in the body, to come into its fullest fruition. And when you're in relationship with people, whether it's your family, your partners, your children, your business colleagues, any other people in your workplace, you'll find you're the most productive as women in that time. And if men knew this, my goodness, you could have such an epic workforce of, if you understand where the women in your workplace are in their cycle, you would know when to step back and not say anything, or encourage them to go, hey, you're in a great zone right now. Can we get this, this, and this done? Or can you action this? Imagine if our men had this insight to feel our energy and understand it and go, okay, I'm going to utilize this information and let's get crack-a-lackin' and get this job done here. Or when they notice us in our premenstrual phase, which is the wild phase, they could step back and have more compassion, or perhaps be more mindful with their words and their expression, and have that conversation of oh, wow, okay, your body is going through a lot. I understand. Maybe I'll just come back to you in a couple of days. Or, okay, I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm not going to get emotionally charged because your emotions are heightened too. And so in this wild phase, I like to call it the wild wise woman. It's like the she-wolf energy. And I find that this part of our phase also gets spoken about in a really negative way. And here in Australia, they might go, oh, she's on her rags. Oh, you got your period. Oh, it's that time. It's that time again. Oh, be careful. It's that time. These are stigmas in society, right? And it's you know what? Let's have a little bit more respect for the body, for the woman in front of you who is going through a process. And could we have more compassion and remove that sarcasm, remove the oppressive energy? And could we meet each other in a deep place of respect for that person and their body? And for women also, to meet men in that place. I mean, men, I'm not talking about women as being a cyclical being. We're like the seasons, but men are like the sun. Rise up and come down. They have a 24-hour cycle. They've got their own rhythm compared to ours. So understanding their rhythm, that's a whole other topic in itself. But when we understand our rhythm as women, we can share this with our girls, with our boys, our sons, with our partners, so that we can communicate better. And so this wild wise woman phase, emotions are heightened. We can get more emotional. I know I get more emotional. I notice my energy, I can be a bit more snappier. For some women, cramping may happen in this time. Now, I used to get cramping a lot, and my periods used to last anywhere from 5 to 7 days. But now they're only in heavy flow 2 days, and the rest is more easeful because of the work I've done on reframing my universe, my womb space, honoring my body, and my relationship with my flow and my cycle on an energetic and intuitive level has shifted for the better for me. And that's my story. And the science behind that, I can't explain that. All I can explain is my truth and my wisdom. And when I reframed, understanding through the archetypes, through the energies, bringing more reverence and celebration and honor to my body and the body wisdom that I have within me, my relationship and my inner landscape changed. And therefore, I noticed that I actually don't get cramps. And when I do, I talk to my body and go, what is it? What tension are you trying to shift for me and help me release? And there may be some tension points in my life at the time or things there, but I question, if I'm feeling pain or this suffering here, what is it in my reality, in my existence, do I need to pay attention to and allow to be shed, to be released? And I found, particularly within this last year and a half, it has been really, really profound to see the difference in my own cycle and understanding that when I'm in that wild wise woman phase, getting ready to go into the crone, and like that wild wise woman is like autumn, the leaves are preparing, you're getting ready to shift and change. There's a lot that could happen. And I've learnt to be gentler with my body. I've learnt to communicate with my husband, with my daughter, with the people around me, with my fellow sisters and women who are in my sisterhood connections, and really speak more into this openly. And it is normalized in my world, but it wasn't always like that. I can talk about periods and flow and menstrual cycle and the body changes because I'm not scared of it. And I don't want my daughter to be scared of talking about these things as well. In our schools, no matter what country you're in, our girls should be allowed to go to the toilet to change their pad. If we have leakages, it shouldn't be shamed. We should meet it with compassion. What can we do to help you? Do you need to rest? Do you need to change? Could we as women who are listening into this honor each other more and celebrate each other more in the power that we hold within us? Could we invite our men, our sons, into conversation and dialogue around this reframe? And could we bring more of this information to our girls earlier, to our teenagers, so that when they're coming into their sexual prime, and I am going to talk about this because, again, it's another taboo subject, because when we get our periods, we become women, and therefore boys and men, it becomes a part of the dynamics of relationship building. So with our teenagers, could we invite more conversations around consent, around saying, no, I don't want to do that with that person, or to open conversations with our teens who are in relationships to talk about their bodies and how they're feeling with their partner, to talk about this energy that I've been speaking about in the cycle phase. But let's be real, it comes out of our vaginas, our yoni spaces, and it is a force that can create life. So yes, we can do all of the scientific and biological teachings around safe sex and understanding the menstrual cycle and the biochemical things that happen around it and the practical things, but the energy behind it is so powerful. That framing of this rite of passage where girls turn into women when we get our menses, our menarche, when we celebrate and honor that and revere that and teach our boys and our men to do that too, we would be having way more safer relationships that are grounded in communication and grounded in honoring each other as individual human beings and women not as property. We are past the times now where we sell each other off to other families or we arrange marriages. I understand about culture. But let's come back to the individual. Can we reframe those old ways of being? And it may work for some families. That's okay. However, can we invite conversation and dialogue to those young men and women who are then going to be forging relationships together to talk, to honor each other, to meet each other in a place of growth and love and not a hierarchy? Can we walk hand in hand together? And this paradigm is something that I'm really passionate about, of, I was going to say squishing, but reframing, allowing that to, like the rain that's happening now, wash away with the past, with the old, wash away down the river, so that new pillars and new strengths in the grounded and the foundedness can come together, and we stand tall as women and as men, side by side. And this day and age now, we are here to honor and remember the feminine voice, the power of our girls, the power of women. Because when women rise, our men rise, and our children rise too. And this is how we change the world. Because in that honoring, women automatically honor their men and their children and their families. And we will do anything in our hearts to make your dreams come true. But you must nourish the hearts of the feminine. You must nourish the waters, the energy of this pure essence that is divine innocence and chaos all woven into one. Because that is how powerful a girl is. That is how powerful a woman is. And when we have the framework of our men honoring that, they can do anything in their power to be like the sun and shine so brightly so that we can be nourished. And when we nourish the hearts and the energy of the woman, the waterways of the earth, within our waters, within our womb spaces, within our flow, and the power of the blood that we bring in the memory, we honor the world. And so I thank those beautiful girls for sharing their insights and sharing what they've noticed with the injustices. I thank my daughter for coming in and reminding me of the power I have as her mother. I thank my husband for just holding such beautiful space, being in this home with him, creating and co-creating a life together that is just beautiful in all of its rawness and its messiness and our growth together. We are not perfect. We have our fights, we have our moments, but we honor each other's energy, and we use our voices to listen, to talk to each other, to honor our being. And that is powerful. So thank you for listening. And I'm looking forward to hearing more inspiration of our young people that spark this creative life force energy, which I know sparks me to talk about these topics. And I know Felicia, who will be speaking shortly, is going to be embracing that energy, that creativity, that life force energy. And I can't wait to hear what she has to say. So, Flea, I might invite you back on. I don't know. Or maybe she'll go to the end of the stream. We will see. But thank you, everybody. Whether Flea comes, oh, here she is. Yay. You know I like to talk with you.
I know. I'm just like, oh, that's so powerful. I'm sitting here holding my crystal going, the energy's, oh no, I've got to calm down now. So yes, I'm here. And everything that you said is so true. And the creative energy that I'm about to speak into starts with that. It starts with birth. It starts with creation. And, you know, when we have a better understanding of that, and this is why a lot of religions refer to God as, you know, giving woman to Adam so that he can see. can see the creation of birth, the creation of life. And, you know, whether you're religious or not, the message in the story is it's evident in humanity. When we give birth to children and we nurture and we care, part of our body changes forever. Part of our soul is forever intertwined with, you know, the next generation and those previous generations. And all of this information has been there and available for so many decades. It has been passed on in stories in indigenous cultures. It's the wisdom that has been lost because it has been shamed. And we spoke about like that emotion wheel and that nasty word of shame, embarrassed. Why should we be embarrassed that we can create the actual individual that is creating the taboo topic to begin with? Like, you would not be here to create that shame in the first place had you not been birthed through a woman that is having a cycle, having a period. Oh God forbid, you know, I'm sorry. Don't talk about that. It's shameful. You know, it's embarrassing. Why? Why is it embarrassing? It's embarrassing because we don't talk about it and we don't understand it. And when we don't understand something, we feel embarrassed. And that's what shame is. It's feeling embarrassed because we don't know, because we weren't taught. But guess what? It's a new age, it's a new era, and we have technology and we have the information. And if you've heard even just this little bit, go back and watch it. Be curious about it, but think of it in a sense of, okay, well, how does this apply to me, whether you're male or female? How does it apply to me? How do these cycles that are the very moon that, you know, we're guided by, these cycles and conditionings, like how does that affect me? Have you actually stopped to track how you feel each week? Do you have a winter and a summer? Like, I've seen it in people around me. It's phenomenal. And this is the gift of knowledge, of wisdom, of motherhood, of women.
Lovely. I just love how you encapsulate that so beautifully. And folks, if you want to learn more about these archetypes of the crone, the maiden, the mother, the wild woman, come and send me an email, and you can connect with us at Awakening Academy. You can come and join our mailing list at by clicking on our links that are in the threads. And I also specifically have a group just for mums that talk about these types of things. So I know our beautiful fusion of Awakening Academy, and I spoke about Monarchy, that process. I have another beautiful space called Monarchy Project, where it's specifically for women and for mums, and it's a whole heap of honoring the stories, as Flea was talking about. And this is why we created Awakening Academy, was to honor the stories, to honor the creations and how we connect with each other, however that may look for the different contexts and the different audiences here. So I'm hoping the amazing mums that were listening in, and dads and teens, you know, I want you guys to be inspired. And if your parents have shared this with you, go you. And maybe this reframe is something that sparks an interest in you too. So without any further ado, we're going to just have a little moment so that Flea can then press the buttons and I can introduce her as well online. Yes. Oh, we've got to change. Do we have to change? Yes, beautiful. We'll be back soon, folks. Felicia is a visionary educator and mystical guide whose transformative approach to learning weaves together elemental wisdom, philosophical insight, and alchemical power of creativity. With over 20 years of experience spanning early childhood, primary, secondary, and adult education, Felicia cultivates holistic personal growth through heart-centered teaching. She artfully integrates diverse creative practices to foster empathy, encourage authentic self-expression, and bridge the heart and mind. Her curriculum emphasizes emotional intelligence, social awareness, and critical thinking, empowering individuals to explore and express their true selves. Felicia's magical educational environments inspire confidence, compassion, and a deep sense of belonging, preparing participants to meet the world with openness, creativity, and purpose.
It's important for kids to be creative because if if we have too much technology time, it won't be balanced. I like to craft and draw, and I like to pretend that thing is there. I like to draw and craft stuff. It makes me feel happy because I pretend to bring them to life.
I just love this so much. It is so beautiful to be able to just celebrate young people. Why am I talking about unleashing potential, the power of creativity in our youth? I really need to begin by shaping, I guess, my journey and why being creative was such a helpful tool for me. I grew up in environments where moving all the time was familiar. Being the new person all the time was regular. Those emotions that Julianne spoke about and other speakers have spoken about in Ants, I knew them well. Like, I don't fit in, always picked last, always a new girl, always somebody's story. And with that, the only thing a person can do is turn to creative arts. It's to turn inwards. And for me, a lot of it was storytelling. I created friends, I created books, songs, plays, like whatever any kid was doing in school, I was able to create that within myself, within my own reality, at home, with me. And I didn't need anybody else. I didn't have to have the best equipment. I didn't have to be known as anything other than me. In my reality, in this creative mind, everything was possible. And with that started the journey of progression. It was like, if I can think of these things, if these things come into my mind, then there has to be some truth to it. There has to be a way to make these things happen. Like, surely there is another way. So for me, I dive deep into absolutely everything. I've gone right down into the pathway of universal truth. And before we started, as I was connecting with Marie before, I said I was holding the crystal because my energy was so amped up. And this stuff it makes me feel amped up. I'm so passionate about it because I know there are better ways. And I know this because I've lived it. The universal truth I was speaking of, part of what I do is I love to tap into the power of story. The old wives' tales that we spoke about before, that I was passionately inscribed into Marie's speech, was the wisdom that guided me. It was always that little bit of woo-woo, a little bit of mystery, a little bit of something unknown. I remember an aunt showing me the ring test. Oh yeah, I'll be able to tell you how many children you're going to have. I thought it was a cool magic trick, and it's like, wow, I can do this energy work with a piece of hair and a ring. I can find out how many babies people are going to have. I can even tell you what gender they're going to be. And that was really cool for me. And it started that road down imagination. Well, if that's possible, maybe other things are as well. So I do a little bit of tarot reading, and I do it mainly because I love a story. The story is what makes it. So before jumping on here, I said, what should I talk about? How do I lead this in a way that's going to make sense for people out there? And of course, the universe card. And what did I say? I'm talking about universal truth. That came out. And for me, this is the world card. When we are connected to the world and when we are connected to creation, we're connected to the universe. We are all creators. And whether it's through art, innovation, problem solving, or collaboration, creativity is actually the key to unlocking our potential and finding our place in the world. It's our way of finding our narrative and how it fits, how we get to belong. And I worry because as a teacher, I see a lot of disconnect in kids. I see a lack of hope and a lack of potential, a lack of dreams. Where's the imagination? Where's the gift of just being a kid? And beautiful Marley speaks of this. It's like, don't lose track of reality. Come back to reality, and you'll hear her speak later. And the reality is that when we are embodied into our heart, into our soul, we are the creators. We can create what we want. And that may be a dream. Maybe it's a new job. Perhaps it's, just a different way of living. That's your creation. And I love to step outside of language. Even though I love to tell the stories, I step outside of language. Why? Because language can also be a barrier. It can prevent us. So when we talk creation or creativity, people go, oh, it's art. Yes, it can be. Perhaps it's just this talking with a pretty border and spending time collaborating with people. That's creation. That's artistic. Perhaps it's making the ads or the videos for your workplace. That's artistic. Maybe you need to actually sell your product. That is artistic. The way in which we communicate and we express, that there is creation. So Awakening Academy of Connective Creation is exactly that. How do we connect and how do we create? How do we come together for the sole purpose of having these soul-led journeys and projects that help make the world better, that help lead us into a way that is going to shape a future where we better understand ourselves, but also lead way for a positive future for those children. My mission has always been, and my big why is that the children need guides on their pathway forwards, and they need guides that know the way to themselves. This is what we're doing here. I can teach in any school, and I can be a vision for those people in my class. But how is that going to change the world for those that really need it? How is that small little feat really going to make a difference to someone that may never get that opportunity to be in a classroom? So I pose the question, what would actually happen if we harnessed our creative energy? Not only just express ourselves, but build a future where every young person feels a sense of belonging and purpose. Imagine that world. Imagine if we actually loved the us at the beginning. And I've always said this, it's like there would be no hate if there was no lack. Why do people rob, steal? And I'm back. Oh, I so love the internet. Somebody please provide me with the right service so I can share this information with the world. It drives me up the wall. I am still live and I believe everybody can hear me, so hopefully everything will refresh where it's meant to. Anyway, let me try and work out where I was, where love begins, back at the heart, engaging in creative projects. Why do we need to do this? Okay, so first off, creativity is not just about art. It's about finding innovation. It's solutions, it's expressing individuality and thinking beyond the limits. Okay, this is life. When we think of creativity, how do we live? How do we live? How do we intentionally move towards the things that we actually seek and desire? This is our creativity. So these are some of the examples. And the more creative we are, the more solution driven we become. This is where mastery gets to happen. And how it happens is it helps our youth to identify their emotions. Back to that very beginning when we were talking with Julianne and some of the other speakers this morning, all of this emotional intelligence, Michelle and all of those that have joined us today, I'm forgetting names, sorry people. The emotional intelligence that we need as human beings is an intelligence far greater than it has ever been given. And this is where we tap into knowing who we are so that we can intentionally express ourselves, and that's the creativity, for intentional purpose. So we know that we're not going to be misunderstood, because once again, that's one of those problems of humanity, that we feel misunderstood, that we don't feel like we belong, that we're not enough. Those internal thoughts that hijack our creativity, they hijack our karma and our energy centers. So creativity, it's not just a skill. It is a pathway for growth and belonging and impact. It is what connects us. It's the stories that we get to share when we come together. Now, my vision in Awaken has always been to build a community where we come together on projects that inspire us. I don't want to work in a job where I feel dread, where it's like, oh, I love it, but I don't like this. Like, why can't work be in your joy? And one of Marie's beautiful programs was talking about finding your ikigai and how when you find what you love and what is needed in the world, then you can find your success and you never have to work a day in your life. Well, that to me sounds plausible. Why shouldn't we work within our joy? So these projects are like, well, let's put it out there. This is what needs doing. I want to build an academy, a school where we can actually engage that innovative, creative imagination, where teachers and students are both one and the same, where it's about creating something together that builds the learning and the impact. It's about listening to the masters and the elders and coming together on projects that matter. Because most of us want to just belong. We want to be a part of something. We want to be recognized for what we can bring. But a lot of the time that gets lost. I know in teaching, I'm really great at storytelling and creative stuff. But a lot of that gets lost if I have to teach something that is curriculum based, or it's been so adapted for so many different teachers that it tends to just lose its spark. And we know that kids aren't inspired by teachers that aren't in their joy. So why are we forcing this curriculum that is void of joy? Any teacher that is in their passion will know exactly what the learning is, exactly what the skill and the benefit is, and how to engage that. I started out in fashion design because when I was told I had to get a job, I was like, oh, well, what am I good at? I'm good at art. What are the jobs that are good at art? Okay, find something that's creative. Find something where you can make stuff. I'm going to design clothing, I said. And as good as I am and as talented as I could be, there's a little bit of a loophole in that scenario because you need finances and you need business understanding and you need things that aren't always connected. But what it did teach me was how to adapt, because I needed to understand different ways of communicating, different language. And when you understand design from the very foundation all the way up to the masterpiece, when you understand how to come up with an idea, a concept, and then move it through its stages into this level of, now I actually have my idea, my plausible. It's gone from being impossible, an idea is impossible until it is made into a plan. The minute you go through that plan, you then have possibility, and that there is innovation. So being able to master your skills, being able to think of an idea and then work your way through the process, no matter what discipline you are in, that is a creative process. That is a mastery of finding ways to adapt, to evolve, to improve, and to find a way of expressing the story within. Now, I love this painting behind me. It is incomplete. You can't see it from here, but every single different shade of color is actually a dot. It is a large painting. It is bigger than me. And when I started it, I started with this idea of, I just want to play with color. Why? I was feeling down. I was feeling really detached, and I just really needed a way to distract the thoughts that were in my mind, just like we've spoken about today. Being able to identify the negative and find some emotional regulation. So I started with the color, and it was like, well, what do I really want to express with this color? And usually I start with 3. There is always a basis of 3. And if you go into science and you love science and quantum, it is the power of Einstein. 3 times mc squared time, space, and matter. Put them all together and you have creation. You have a big bang. So my 3 colors, I had pink, I had blue, and I had green. And through that, I went, okay, I'm just going to mix it together and I'm going to create a color palette. It is no talent, no skill necessary. It's literally taking a brush and blending it and knowing when to stop when it's not becoming one color. Very simple. Anyone can do it. Really basic. What it does, though, is it makes you stop and be present, because the minute you get distracted, your paint dries, it doesn't work, you get frustrated, and so on. It just doesn't happen. When you're present, you can actually then rationalize that thought process. You can go through asking the questions, why was I triggered? Why was this happening? And what tends to happen in art is that tends to merge. So what I found with this one is, because I was emotional, in the middle it muddled. It went purple, it went dull, and it was not appealing. And I just went, oh, that kind of feels like me. And right there, snap. That there is the story. That there is the process of healing. That there is the identifier of my soul. I felt like a muddled mess of color. And so that symbol on the front, that beautiful circles, which was literally made from a strainer cover, because I needed a circle. There was no geometric lines, though that was something that was starting to pop into my thought process. It was like, okay, well, how can I do this? I'm just going to put a circle here. Oh, I want more, and I want more. How can I make this something else? And it started to evolve into what felt like a web of my life. It's like all of these muddy colors to me represented the people, the experiences, and so much had happened. That's why it was a big muddy mess. And the more I put the lines over the top and I filled in some of the pieces, some of the things that meant things to me, because this was the thought process that was happening as I was creating that. So you can see some of them are really vibrant and silver and popping out, and some are showing the ugliness from underneath. And anyway, the process is that all of these people, and there's thousands of them, some of them are on the outer barriers and will never ever come into my circumference, but they'll be intertwined and interconnected with all of the people that do come into my sphere. And when you know the complexity of the story of life, of creation, of just understanding myself, of taking the time to be present, miracles unfold. The understanding that it doesn't matter how much I'm a sphere, I'm never alone. I'm always impacted by people I don't even know, and I'm always impacting people I don't know. I may never meet some of the people that hear this today, and whatever is shared may spark a passion project. And I call myself Passion Fire in other places because that's what drives me. When life was so down in the dumps, when everything was just crumbling, I had the escape. I had a story to tell myself. And if you know anything about parts therapy, and I'm a trauma-informed coach, so I understand the development of the psychological processes of the mind. What we tell ourselves, what we believe, becomes our reality. So why keep telling ourselves a negative story? Why not create one that is far better, far more impactful, far more desirable than the negative, crushing, muddled mess that we tend to find ourselves in? Why are we not choosing to transform our lives? And so when we talk about unleashing the potential of creativity, it is that. It is what lights you up, what fuels your heart. Ask your kids what fuels their heart. So many of them know it. They know it, and it gets lost. And it usually gets lost before they turn 8. So psychologically, by the time we turn 8, our brains are now hardwired to absorb the social conditioning of society. So by 8, we start to recognize that our reality is separate to everybody else's, and there is a difference between you and I. And this is where we have to start to form conclusions based on our environment. Now, if your child does not have a strong sense of identity before 8, if they are not in touch with their joy and their passion, if they cannot regulate their emotions before they turn 8, they are going to struggle. And they're going to struggle with either addictive behaviors, as we're going to hear about later on. They may take risky behaviors or make decisions that, are ill-informed because they don't understand themselves. Going into risky relationships is one of the biggest problems, and I've found myself in many. I found myself in situations that I had no idea were as harmful as they could have been. And this is what emotional intelligence, awareness, creative awareness brings. Now, I was lucky that I had life skills. I knew how to adapt in environments and to utilize the skills of adaptability and creativity to fit in. So out comes the mask, out comes the playthings. And we all do this. It is actually my favorite canvas. I'm a makeup artist as well. So any type of creation, you name it, the jack of all trades is the master apprentice. It is the person that can take any level of creativity to the next degree. You can see the levels and the pathways. And this is where true genius and leadership and mastery lies. When we know ourselves, when we understand our design and what generates our energy, what drives our willpower, what makes us who we are, we then don't waste a whole lot of time learning things that don't apply to us, that are in the wrong language. Because that's the thing, we each speak in different languages. And this is why we have tribes. This is why we have groups. And why so many times we feel like we're the black sheep, because we're not within our language community. we're not able to express ourselves freely. And if we're not able to express ourselves freely, we're putting on a mask. And those masks, as great as they can be for adapting, because we do need to be able to live in society, you need to be able to take them off as well and not wear them all of the time. So the masks are the things that we get to create. And that was one of the things I like to create on the most. How can I transform this? How can I make me the version of me I want to be? Well, I get to start with me. I get to start with my physical form, because that was the thing I decided before I even came here that I wanted. I wanted to be able to be creative and expressive with myself. Now, this means that I can take that into any single job. I've worked in hospitality. I've worked in merchandising. I've worked in fashion industries, in cleaning and ironing, in early education, like you name it. The skills that creativity brings, it equips you for life. Why are we not instilling this in our children? And we saw before I started speaking, beautiful Aya and Prashanti, like Prashanti singing, that adaptability, that angelic voice, and her beautiful artwork that flashed through. To be able to master that and express that, not be ashamed by it. Why are we shaming our kids for their development and their growth? Nothing ever turns out fantastic to start with. The pink one on the side there is a failure waiting to be transformed. Everything has purpose when we teach it. Everything has value when it's known and when we're aware. And the only way that we can do this is through creative expression, through creative connections, through storytelling, through diverse perspectives. What that means to me may mean something completely different to someone else. They may see a melody of colors and believe it's a rainbow and a magical vision of transportation. Some may just see it as a psychedelic trip that has taken them somewhere else. It doesn't matter. It's what it means for you that matters. And those that resonate with you, those that love and care and are the soul tribe, are easily recognized because they express in the same way. And I often speak of the detriment of uniforms in schools. This is something that hinders our identity and reduces our ability to be able to see and connect with people that are of like mind. I know that we've all gone through points in our life where we've ended up in the wrong group going, I don't even know why these people are my friends. Like, we've got nothing in common. We're not the same. We don't like the same things. And really, some of the time, we don't even like them. I'm sure we can all put our hands up and go, yeah, I definitely know that. And yes, there's some people that I would have preferred not to have met. Those reflections, though, are deeply insightful when we understand our creative potential, where we understand our creator energy. And I guess the main part of this is bringing it back to kids. It's great for me as an adult. I've got this insight now. I've also hit a point where it almost crushed me. Why are we waiting for our kids to crumble and end up in the gutters before we're willing to say and do something? And I know that this is a problem because I'm a teacher, and the amount of kids that are no-shows, that can't come to school because of social anxiety or fear of bullying or fear of failure, that many parents are going down the homeschool route, but really not understanding or knowing how to really help and shape their kids' futures. We're stuck with a world that is technologically driven, and we don't know what is safe and we don't know what is true. And the only way to break free from these molds and break free from these restrictions is to start building creative community projects. Start working together where everybody succeeds. We don't have to be in competition. If we're all working on a project together, let's share the proceeds. Why not? Why not? Let's say there's 30 people and we're going to make $30 million. We all get $1 million each. How fantastic would that be? To know that as you're learning, you have the capability of producing and creating and then having a product to sell because you're learning to the nth degree of how to be all you can be. This is the potential of creative power. And it starts with energy. It starts with tapping into those feelings. We've all got a favorite song or a moment where we've pulled out a sad melody because we're heartbroken, or, we jump for joy, and then we've got, our wedding songs or whatever it is. Those are moments of passion for people. Those are moments of creativity, of creative expression, of creative potential. And it's not limited to a few people that can sing. It's not limited by anything other than your will and your desire. If you want to achieve, you can. And I am living proof of that. I may be sitting here in a nice room with artwork and equipment and nicely dressed, but I didn't start here. Nobody ever starts here. And if they do, they're not in the position of understanding of themselves to fully appreciate and understand what they have. And this is the learning and the lessons of life. So I didn't start here. I didn't always have the things. I actually have nothing. I have very little to my actual name. I'm just living day to day in my joy and in my blessing. And a lot of people will see that as a lie because they see the image that I present. They see the canvas that is on the screen. But remember that you have the ability to do anything. I did not graduate high school. I finished in year 9. I had to move out of home because I felt that was the best option for me, that would be the safest thing for me. And I moved in with an older gentleman. A risky thing to do for a teenager. I was 14. He was 21. Okay. You don't have to be a genius to work out that that's not okay. But the thing is that lifestyle, that risky lifestyle, so many kids are still doing. And they're doing it because they don't feel safe. They don't have a place to belong. And this place to belong is the creative projects that we want to bring into this world, that should be in this world already because we have them. We just need to start learning to trust one another again, to be there for one another, and to share our expertise. Because what's the point in having a great skill if nobody ever gets to see it? If all of your artwork sits on your own walls and it's never appreciated, never valued? What's the point in having everything if you're all alone or you're too scared that somebody's going to come and take it away from you? So I had nothing. I was out of home very young. I had no education, no school, no hopes for the future. My life written for me by those ancestral traumas, by those stories of the past, by the societal expectations that said, you come from trash, so you should stay trash. And I said no, because I told myself differently. I had those stories and that power of creativity, and I amplified my reality, and I said, I can do better. So I moved out, and at 14, I was working and running an ironing and cleaning company. I got business skills as part of life. I went through life. I did the things. I got the jobs, worked in retail, did this and that, went into design, had a whole bunch of fun in a whole bunch of very limited potential workplaces. So that means poor pay rate, keep you down, keep you working. And I said, well, no, this is not okay. I need to make something of myself. I need to progress even further. I'm not trash, and I'm not going to stay down. I'm not going to accept less than. I'm going to amplify. So I amplify, and we build our skills. Now, what most of you are probably unaware of, and even some teenagers that maybe you dropped out of school and you're like, oh, now there's nothing going for me. It's not true. Your life skills, those certificates, the workplaces, the benefits, the adaptability that you get from actually living, from being creative and adaptive, they're valuable. They are so valuable that employers are actually scared of them, and that's why they keep us down. But imagine if we can shift this and we can tap into what it is you truly love without having to go through all those processes. Now, we know that there's parts of every job that we don't love, but when we love the project and we know that the end result is going to be beneficial for so much more than just ourselves, it's a win-win situation, in my eyes anyway. So lots of skill building, lots of adaptability. I saw myself in uni. Who would have guessed? Grade 9 education, and here I am, I've got a bachelor's degree. I was meant to be trash. I was meant to stay there. My creative mindset said, no, you can't keep me down. You challenge me to stay down, and I'm going to create a story that's going to shift that. And that's what I did. Now, has it been easy? No, but that's fine. That's my story. It could have been a lot easier if I'd known beforehand. And this is where we're getting at with this summit, is listening to the youth so we know beforehand. We don't need to push them all into marriages that they don't want. I'm sure some of these men don't even want them, and if they're grown men, they shouldn't be wanting them. Ask the kids, how can we lead you towards a future that you're going to be proud of? Our time is here and now. If we're not doing it good enough now, then we shouldn't have a say. And this is why I want to empower youth, and why Awaken Academy is giving the youth a voice and a podcast and a place where they can say, hang on a sec, why? This is not the world that I want to grow up and go into those workplaces. And as an employer, I run a company now. I run a business. As someone that wants to employ people, I want those people to love what they do. So that's part of the conversation. What is the thing that you want to see yourself doing in this project? If that's you, then you're going to do it fantastic. I know, because if you love it, you can't fail. If you love it, there is no failure, because you're always trying to improve. You're always trying to master. You're always seeking solutions. You're in that level of mastery and in that level of potential. So when we give these young people a voice and they engage in these creative projects, they will find their tribe. They will find their voice, and they will find a place to belong. And this creativity, it allows youth to process those emotions and express themselves in healthy ways. I don't know about the rest of the world, but here in Australia, youth crime is happening. Why? Because there's nobody at home to love them. There is no safety. I know that from my journey, from my behaviors, from my understanding, that if there is no safety, you are always striving for it, and you will do anything for that. We know as mothers that, the minute our child is threatened, out comes a cougar, out comes a lion. Beware. A person tormented, a person hurt will hurt another. And when we understand and we teach creative expression, emotional understanding, how to creatively think and innovate and be resilient in the face of challenges, this is where that communication, that leadership, and that responsibility gets to be. We don't get to be scared of our kids. And this is my fear, and why I no longer teach full time. I do not want to be scared of children. It has been my passion, my desire, my dream forever to be the mother, to be the guide, to be the wisdom maker, the crone, the grandmother, the whatever you want to call me, the teacher. I'm here to nurture, and yet how can you nurture if there's fear? How can you nurture if there isn't that connectability in the first place, that safety? How do we create these spaces? How do we do that? We show through our own development. We show through our expression, through talking, through connection. I want to work with people that love what they do, that are passionate and desire a place to belong. And I want to instill in young people that there is going to be those places available for them, and that there is more than just doing the job and, living the miserable life like our parents, or from what we've heard, and I've spoken to lots, as long as I can get away and do anything to be nothing like them. Why do our kids want to get away from us? It's a lot of what was spoken about earlier is that our kids aren't ours. They are individual human beings. From day one, we're here to foster and nurture and share our wisdom along the way. Share. And it was pointed out quite recently, there's a big difference between advising and telling. And I never really understood this because my comprehension of advising was you're offering advice. It's a suggestion. It's there to take as you will. But when you're advising someone that doesn't want your advice, and especially with kids, and you're telling them, do it this way because I know better, that's my way, that advice becomes telling because it's unwanted. And that's the difference. Advice is asked for. Advice is listened to. And this is where we want to be as human beings, as teachers, as educators, as leaders, as parents. We want to be in the position where we can have these discussions and be open and be creative in the process. How do we do that? We encourage the youth to explore what excites them, whether it's music, technology, art, entrepreneurship. And we've got those speakers here. They can show you the way. I can't believe it. I'm in competition with a 14-year-old when it comes to jewelry design. And like, this is crazy. I never would have thought that that would ever be an issue. But for older people, it is. You are going to be pushed out of your areas of expertise if you don't grow and learn. We need to start small. Start with simple projects. Get your kids interested in something. Is there an overproduction of something? I love to recycle canvases. Do you have artwork around the house that, can be painted over and started again? The texture. It's something cool to bring that out and to just play with what's going to come out. I've got a painting that is literally just over there, colors. It's just colors and texture. And it's really cool because when you go to draw over that, there is no way you can be perfect. There's no way you can do intricate little perfectly lined designs because the texture will ruin it. The texture will bring about its own formation. And this is the understanding of the mind. This is when we understand ourselves and our creative process, we can tap into every part of ourselves and know how it fits. No matter the industry, no matter the area, we know where our expertise is, and it leads to brainstorming, small events, ideas for change, collaboration with others, reaching out to peers with similar interests. Like, we're going to hear some of the kids today, they really want to know what adults felt like before they reached success. How cool is that, to interview an adult and go, how is it you made it? I'd love to know the real story behind Elon Musk and the real story behind some of these entrepreneurs that make all this money. How did they really feel and what was it really like? Imagine that from a kid who, as we all know, are unfiltered. How amazing would that be to get the real truth, seek the real stories and really be accepted by it? Because it is in the challenges that our successes come about. It's in our failures. It's in the dropping out of school that I have a story. It's in the challenges and the hardship that I have the information and the ability to be able to do things that most people wouldn't even think of. It allows us to seek mentorship and guides. And that's what we're creating at Awaken. We have beautiful programs where we guide and we mentor kids, but not just kids. Perhaps you're an adult that wants a new way of life and you want to be a coach, and all you need is somebody to show you the way and give you a space to do it. How perfect, working with people that love and feel the same way. In schools, we can have these creative programs. Yes, the curriculum is beautiful, but it connects. And we can connect everything. And I have done this. I've worked through the entire Year 7 curriculum and I've put it into 4 projects. 4 projects that you have 5 ways of showing your developmental progression. 5 opportunities for success in 4 different programs. Like, that's 20 opportunities to show that you understand the objective. That sounds 10 times nicer than the standardized testing and the written assessments and the online programs that are currently running. Imagine saying, okay, well, what can you do in this program? How did you do that in this program? Can you show me how you did that? that's true teaching, that's true learning, that's true mastery. And it starts with small projects, and we can do them in schools. We have fetes and fairs. Why not start them there? Homeschools, they have their adventures. Anyway, if anything, I hope that this has left you with a little bit of insight for creativity, whether it's just playing with some muddied color and creating a story, whether it's just seeking opportunities to collaborate and experiment and grow. Like, experiment with yourself, with your identity, with, with how you're going to present yourself to the world. It really doesn't take much. It's a vision of the future, but it's one that I can't wait to see, where every young person feels empowered to create a world where ideas flow freely and collaboration leads to real solutions for global change. This is the youth-led creative projects that we're going to be talking about in our next session, and I'm going to invite Marie back for our last few minutes if she has any questions. And I'm so empowered. And
Oh, my goodness. I get so inspired, and it's like this vision for the future, which combines, that unique expression of coming back to the heart, coming back to uh, play that is both old and still kind of feels new, like people have forgotten about it, because when they rediscover it, it's like new again. And that's the beautiful part, whether you're a child, a teen, an adult, an elderly person. It's like that joy that comes from creating, or that beautiful presence, is just really just mesmerizing and profound to witness when you see people in that element. And I know Flea and I want to create more of these moments of just presence and care and expression. And just thanking you for sharing your story and your vision. And I share that vision with you. And I know there are others out there that share it. And I know there are teens that do too, because we've asked them, we've lived it with them in our experience. And some of them are now adults making their way in the world. And others are still finding it hard, like many of us humans and adults. And it doesn't have to be that way if we can all band together and come back to this place, come back to each other in community. So thank you for sharing those inspirational thoughts and insights. And I hope that vision that is now, we can go into a whole summit we have about all the eternal now, but like, let's make it happen faster, everybody. We're both manifesting generators, and we're here about shortcuts. And with our experience, we can help you get there faster. And so this quickening process that we see in the world around us, in these big shifts, and more people questioning as we are today, and listening and going deeper, like there are more and more of us doing that, and we get to invite that into our communities and whatnot. So I just get inspired in the visionary thinker that you are, and who you remind me to be when I think of the big picture. And then it's like, okay, let's make that happen. So folks can come and join in to work with us, can't they, Flea? You mentioned it before that we do have some beautiful curriculum on offer. And this is a shout out to all the adults that are listening in. It's like, yes, I want to do that too. And in the course offerings that we have, you can come and master these concepts that you already know. It's just remembering, and become an awaken facilitator, teacher, affiliate. How can they do that, Flea?
I love that we do this. So many different ways. So we have our beautiful 3-month, it is part of a larger mastery course, but with any of our courses, we love the fact that, if you've completed them and it's something that really resonates with you, we're all about growth and ways to improve, ways to extend. So if you're feeling like, oh, I want to be part of this, I want to coach just like you, like the two of you, then you can come and join us. And those courses, once you're complete, you're equipped to then run your own programs and things like that. So we definitely work on affiliate models where we want to build and expand. And if it starts with just what we're working on, which may be a summit, it could be a creative event, it could be a community art project. We're running some local ones in Ipswich early next year. So there's so many different ways you can be part of an Awakening program and be part of the team, really. Like, this is just the way we're building. So, like I said, we put it out there. Like, this is literally it. This is our model of business. This is how we run. And it is already a thing because we're doing it. So if you are somebody that does want to be part of this program, maybe it's part of summits, maybe it's part of podcasting, it could be anything, really. We are all about creative connections. So the different ways in which we connect, the different ways in which we can be creative and come back to self, that could be self-improvement, could be just a creative fun project. We love those as well. It could be building a community sustainable environment that then gets to grow and become a business hub. Like, the possibilities are endless because impossibility doesn't exist by the sheer thought.
Ugh, I love that. I think you need to claim that as your headline. Because and then I always think of the song from Dr. Seuss, anything is possible, and then I start singing in my head and seeing all these characters dance. But you're right. Anything is possible with these projects, and we also launched a youth magazine this year, and I'll share the link in the tab. I've shared in different spaces, but we're so excited to have young people's voices, their artwork in there as well. So come and check it out. I'll put the link. Yeah, poetry, there's artwork, there's articles written by youth, and there's articles written by us and mentors and other coaches to kind of give that advice. But I really love that, we've got our keynote, beautiful Charlotte, on day 3. She wrote this a really amazing article for kids that are finishing school and how to navigate this world of shift and change. And she's going to be joining us on our panel on looking at, the challenges of being a teenager and sharing her insights as she navigates the last year of being 19 and moving into her adulthood. And this piece around having opportunities for people to speak, but also our teens, our youth, to share their stories in a magazine. At the moment, it's an online version, but we would love for this to be print version. So check it out, guys, if you're interested. Parents, if you're listening in, click on the link, have a look, share it with your young people, and just, give us some feedback. And if they want to submit something, it's free. They can come and connect with us. And I know we've got a lineup of kids already for next year's edition, but we would love to see how this grows.
Oh, even just the sponsorship. Like, if you're like Maddie and you have your own little business, like, what a perfect way to get it out there to other kids. Just a little side note for those little entrepreneurs out there that have a little business that's really inspiring, that they want to share their story of how they did it and where they can get your products. That would be really cool too.
Oh, yes, I love that. I love that. So much potential. And without further ado, we're going to go to a short little break and let that potential and that energy just really sit with us. And we look forward to seeing you back in about half an hour with our final panel for day 1. So we'll see you guys soon.